We're here to make an Irish inspired dish, shepherd's pie in a cast iron skillet. I love a good shepherd's pie. I grew up with shepherd's pie. My mom makes some really good meals. We always loved it when she made her shepherd's pie. I've made shepherd's pie many times. I've never done it in a cast iron skillet. It is a little bit of a process because we do need to make mashed potatoes. Or here's a little trick for you guys. Use instant or the pre-made mashed potatoes, honestly. I love the ones that you buy in like the refrigerated section that are already made for you. We're getting ready to make our mashed potatoes. But before we do that, we have to get our ground beef ready. So we're going to go ahead and we have our cast iron skillet here. Pampered Chef does have cast iron pans. So if you love cast iron pans, definitely want to check those out. Cast iron, it has good and bad. So I personally am not a fan of cast iron. However, I think I'm going to start using it, especially after my doctor's appointment today. The one advantage, the health advantage of cast iron is that the iron from the pan will actually get into your food and help provide that additional nutrition. And other advantage to it is that it can go from stove to oven to tabletop. You can use it in multiple ways. The disadvantages of cast iron is that it's heavy and hand wash only. But it's not that difficult to wash. So there's that. So we have our ground beef and now raised in the traditional Irish shepherd's pie. They use lamb. So let me know if you've had lamb before. So we're going to basically just ground our beef here. So this is going to take a few minutes to ground. We're actually going to put it on high because cast iron is a high heat pan. We're going to let that ground beef sit and get that cooked and brown. I personally have never had lamb, so maybe one day I will try it in my cooking culinary adventures. Get our potatoes mashed up here. So we have a whole stick of butter in there. Mashed potatoes is the only thing I actually will put a lot of butter in. It just changes the texture of it, makes them nice and smooth and creamy. And then we're going to add our potatoes. And we're actually going to use buttermilk. This is a homemade buttermilk I made the other day. So we're just going to pour some of that in there. You can use regular milk. You can use whipping cream, heavy cream. You can, some people don't, in the Irish, they actually don't use anything. They actually leave their potatoes a little bit chunky. But we like, for shepherd's pie, we want them nice and smooth. So I'm using a Pampered Chef potato masher. So we're trying to get a nice smooth texture here with these potatoes because we're going to put this on top of everything else that we're doing. Again, and here in the time crunch, you can use an instant or a pre-made mashed potato as well. Or if you have leftover potatoes, you can use them as well. This is one of those dishes that it's really good for leftovers, and if you have a lot of them, the only thing you really would have to sauce is the ground beef. Depending how you make your shepherd's pie is going to determine how many potatoes you want. But you guys are just laying these on top. You actually don't need that much. So I'm expecting to have some potatoes left over. Nice and buttery. Come back to our ground beef. This is a really one of the best tools from Pampered Chef that you would have when you're dealing with ground beef. We have two of them. We have the older version, which I'm sure most of you recognize as the original mix and chop. And then this is the mix and chop spatula. What's nice about this one, it's the same thing as this one, but this one has a scoop in the middle. So you can just literally scoop it out of that pan for our ground beef. You see how that's browning really nicely? We do a little bit of sticking in the bottom. Typically, if your pan is nice and seasoned, that's the other trick to a good cast over time. It will get seasoned. That seasoning only adds to a flavor. But until that pan is fully seasoned, you're going to have a little bit of sticking. You're going to have a little bit here and there. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to drain this. Once it's all brown, we're going to go ahead and add in some seasonings to this as well. And then we're going to throw it in the oven with a potato topping. And that's how you make easy shepherd's pie skillet. All right. I'm making a big mess with this. We're almost there, I promise. Again, the heat from the pan is actually cooking it really nicely. So as I'm stirring it, All those pink spots that we had are definitely now browning up. You do have to be careful when you touch the handles of these pans because the heat does transfer from one part of the pan to another part. You never want to drain your grease directly into your sink. We're gonna go ahead and drain the ground beef. Again, we don't want to burn ourselves, so we're gonna wrap the handle up the best we can, hopefully. And these pans are heavy, which is another disadvantage of them, which is why I'm not a fan of them. We're gonna do our best here. Drain this without making too much of a mess. Alright, so we're gonna let that drain. We're going to try and get as much of the grease out as possible for the next thing that you're going to do. So we'll shake some of this out. We're going to go ahead and throw this back in. Now keep in mind that the pan is still hot, so we want to try and get this moving as fast as we can. We're going to go ahead and add in some mixed vegetables right in the pan. Yeah, and you're basically just using one pan minus whatever you do with the potatoes. We're going to go ahead and add in some more peas. The trick to this recipe is that you want to go down to all of your veggies. We're going to give this a good stir.
Going out.
We're going to go ahead and add in some seasoning. So I'd like to add in some garlic, some onion powder. You can use fresh onion. We're going to use Pampered Chef's black garlic seasoning. The meat is like the base of the dish. Another difference between this one and how I normally make my shepherd's pie is that I will actually use the potatoes as a crust on the bottom as well as on the top. This one just has them on the top, which is totally fine. We're going to add a tiny bit of salt, not a lot. A little something there. Go ahead and add in about half a cup of beef broth. This is just going to help the flavoring a little bit. And a little more if you want, depending on beef. And last but not least, we're going to go ahead and add in some tomato paste. And we're going to add about, I don't know, a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons or so of tomato paste. It just adds a little additional flavor to it. That beef broth is also going to help everything to cook nice. This is a pretty full pan, so we'll see how it goes. Turn this up a little bit as well. So what we're looking for is basically for the vegetables to just warm up a little bit because they were frozen. You got a good mix. The pan's kind of full, so I'm trying to be easy about it. I don't want to spill anything all over the edge. So we're going to just smooth this out the best we can because we want a nice flat surface to work with when we start laying on the potatoes. We're going to actually press it down as well because we want to try and get rid of any air or holes that might be in there. We still have that broth in there cooking. Adding that flavor, all the seasonings. Vegetables still feel like they can cook a little bit more, but they'll cook in the oven once we put it in there. What we're going to do now is we're going to turn this off and we're going to go ahead and start laying on our potatoes. I'm going to put like a couple big scoops and then we'll smooth it all out. If you don't want the potatoes to stick, you can always put some oil on your spatula, on the spreader, whatever you're using. And we're just going to spread these out all across the top, the whole way up to the very top of the pan. You can see how I'm just going back and forth and just smoothing out at the edges as we go. We don't want a good, we want to try and get even as we can across the top. This is the art right here. If you wanted to, you can add some fresh parsley on top to give it a little bit more of a unique look. But keep in mind that it's not completely sealed. So when you put it in the oven under the broiler, You might have some of the broth, the liquid and stuff popping out. We're actually going to do it low because the pan is already hot. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and throw this in our oven. And basically what we're looking for is a nice golden top. Honestly, it should not take very long. It should take maybe 5 minutes for the potatoes to get that nice crunchy. And that's it, guys. That's what we have for you guys. Thank you so much for watching our Irish inspired skillet shepherd's pie. And if you guys need anything from Pampered Chef, let me know. Just send me a message. If you want to host a party, I would love to have you. If you want to check me out with Family Meals and Minutes on SKOOL, just message Meals and I will gladly send you that link as well. Thanks for watching. And new spring products did come out, guys, so I'm super excited about that. If you're interested in learning more, just shoot me a message. Thanks, everyone.